When most people hear the word love, their minds instantly leap toward feelings, those butterflies in the stomach, the rush of excitement, the spark of attraction that seems to make the world glow brighter. Movies, songs, and novels have conditioned us to believe that love is primarily an emotion, mysterious current that sweeps us away. But if we stop there, if we equate love only with fleeting feelings, we set ourselves up for disappointment. Feelings change. They rise and fall like the tides, easily influenced by circumstances, moods, or even exhaustion. If love were only a feeling, it would be as fragile as the weather, sunny one day, stormy the next. The truth is that love is much deeper, more resilient, and more enduring than mere emotion. Real love is not something you simply fall into or out of. It is something you choose to live out day after day, especially when the emotions waver. Think about it. If love were only about passion, marriages would collapse the moment the initial spark dimmed. Friendships would die as soon as disagreements arose. Families would fracture under the strain of conflict. Yet the relationships that last, the ones that inspire us, prove that love is built on more than feelings. It is built on choices, intentional, consistent decisions to care, to respect, and to honor another human being. Choice is where love becomes powerful. Feelings are reactive. They depend on what happens to us. But choices are proactive. They come from who we decide to be. When you choose to love someone, you're not saying, I will only be here as long as it feels good. You're saying, even when the emotions change, even when it's inconvenient or difficult, I will act with patience, respect, and care. That kind of love has a backbone. It endures the storms because it's anchored in commitment, not just chemistry. Consider the love of a parent who wakes up at r.a.m. to comfort a crying child. In that moment, they don't feel excitement or passion, they feel exhaustion, and yet they choose to rise, to hold, to soothe. That is love as a decision. Or consider the partner who forgives after betrayal, not because the hurt vanished overnight, but because they decided to value healing more than resentment. Or even the friend who shows up to help you move house, not because lifting boxes is fun, but because loyalty matters more than. These examples may not be romanticized in movies, but they are the clearest demonstrations of love's truest form. Why is this distinction so important? Because when people believe love is only a feeling, they give up too easily. They think, I don't feel the same anymore, so maybe this isn't real love. They walk away searching for the next high, the next thrill, only to repeat the same cycle. But when you understand that love is a choice, you stop chasing temporary sparks and start building fires that last. You realize that the absence of constant butterflies doesn't mean love has died. It means it's matured. The thrill of infatuation evolves into the strength of devotion, the security of trust, and the quiet joy of knowing someone has your back, no matter what. And of course, this doesn't mean love is emotionless. Feelings matter. They bring color and warmth to the experience of love. But feelings are like the flowers that bloom in a garden, while choices are the roots that sustain it. Without roots, the flowers wither. Without choices, the feelings fade. The beauty lies in combining both, cherishing the moments of joy, passion, and connection while grounding them in deliberate acts of loyalty and respect. In fact, some of the greatest acts of love in history were not fueled by fleeting feelings, but by steady choices. Leaders who fought for justice, individuals who sacrificed for their families, communities that stood together in times of tragedy, all of these were rooted in the decision to love, even when it was hard. It is this kind of love that changes the world. So the next time you think about love, ask yourself, am I treating it like a temporary emotion, or am I willing to live it as a choice? Because the truth is, anyone can feel in love, but it takes courage to choose love when it's difficult. That's where the real meaning lies. Love then is not something that merely happens to us. It is something we consciously cultivate. It is showing up when it's easier to walk away. It is speaking gently when anger urges you to lash out. It is staying loyal when temptation whispers otherwise. It is choosing to see the best in someone even when they are at their worst. These are not accidents of the heart. They are decisions of the will. When you embrace this truth, your perspective shifts. You stop asking, "How do I feel right now?" and instead ask, "Who do I want to be in this relationship?" That question leads to stability, resilience, and depth that emotions alone cannot sustain. Because in the end, love is not about waiting for the perfect feeling to appear. It's about choosing to create love through your actions day after day. And here lies the paradox. When you commit to love as a choice, the feelings you thought had disappeared often return deeper and more meaningful than before. Passion is reborn not as a shallow spark, but as a steady flame that warms you for a lifetime. One of the biggest misconceptions about love today is the idea that it's purely about freedom, pleasure, and escape. We often hear people say, "I want love to make me feel alive," or "I want someone who takes me away from all my problems." That sounds appealing, but it's only half the story. Because true love doesn't just lift you into moments of euphoria, it roots you in responsibility. It ties you to something bigger than yourself. And this is where many people struggle, because responsibility feels heavy while escape feels easy. Yet, without responsibility, love cannot survive. Think about it. When you say you love someone, what are you really saying? You're saying, "I see you, I recognize your worth, and I am willing to care for you." That's not just a poetic line. It's a promise, and promises come with responsibility. It means showing up when you're tired. It means listening when you'd rather be silent. It means protecting trust even when temptation tests you. Love is not an exit door from life's challenges. It is an anchor that calls you to rise above them. Responsibility in love doesn't mean control or burden. It means commitment. The moment you truly love, you accept that your choices impact another person's life, not just your own. You can no longer live as if you exist in isolation. Your words, your actions, your silence, they all carry weight because they shape the heart of someone who trusts you. And trust is fragile. When you handle it carelessly, it cracks. But when you protect it, it strengthens the bond in ways nothing else can. This is why love and maturity are inseparable. Immature love looks for escape from accountability, escape from sacrifice, escape from the demands that relationships inevitably bring. It says, "I'll stay as long as it feels good, but the moment it requires effort, I'm gone." Mature love, on the other hand, embraces responsibility as a privilege. It understands that responsibility is not a chain but a choice, an act of honor. To be responsible in love is to say, "I value enough to carry this with care. Your heart matters to me, and I will not treat it lightly." Responsibility also requires sacrifice, and that word often makes people uncomfortable. But love without sacrifice is shallow. Sometimes sacrifice is as small as putting away your phone to have a real conversation. Other times, it's as big as relocating, adjusting your lifestyle, or enduring hardships together. These sacrifices aren't about losing yourself. They're about prioritizing what matters most. And ironically, the more you give responsibly, the more love gives back to you in return. But here's the danger. Many people want the comfort of love without the weight of responsibility. They want the warmth of intimacy without the discipline of loyalty. They want to feel adored without being willing to stand by someone else when it's inconvenient. This is why so many relationships collapse, not because love isn't real, but because responsibility is abandoned. And when responsibility is abandoned, love withers. Let's bring this to a concrete example. Imagine a friendship. If your friend constantly shows up late, cancels plans, or ignores your struggles, how long would that friendship last? Probably not long. Why? Because they failed to be responsible with the gift of your trust. The same principle applies applies to romantic love, to family, to any bond you hold sacred. It's not grand gestures alone that sustain relationships, it's daily responsibility. It's remembering birthdays, keeping promises, and choosing honesty when lying would be easier. Responsibility also means protecting the relationship from harm, both external and internal. That includes being mindful of how you speak in anger, resisting temptations that could destroy trust, and standing up for your partner when life gets difficult. Real love doesn't look for a way out when challenges come. It digs deeper, builds stronger, and proves itself in action. Some people fear responsibility because they think it will rob them of freedom. But here's the paradox. Responsibility actually creates freedom. When you take responsibility in love, you free yourself from insecurity and constant doubt. But you free yourself from the shallow cycle of chasing thrills. You build something solid, something dependable, something that allows both of you to rest in the peace of trust. That is freedom, the freedom to be vulnerable, the freedom to be fully known, the freedom to stop pretending. Escape might give you a momentary rush, but responsibility gives you lasting peace. We must also acknowledge that responsibility in love is not one-sided. It is not meant to trap you in unhealthy or abusive situations. True love demands mutual responsibility. Both people carry the weight together, both nurture trust, both choose respect. When only one person is carrying all the responsibility, the relationship becomes imbalance. And that is not love, but exploitation. Responsibility in love is about partnership, not slavery. When you understand this, your vision of love changes. You stop chasing relationships as a form of escape and begin seeking relationships that challenge you to grow. You stop asking, what can I get from this? And instead ask, what can I give and how can we build together? That shift transforms love from a temporary thrill into a lifelong journey of meaning. Because at the end of the day, love is not proven in the easy moments. It is revealed in the hard ones. Anyone can enjoy the escape of passion, but only those who embrace responsibility experience the depth of true connection. Love doesn't demand perfection, it demands presence, loyalty, and courage. And when you live this truth, love stops being a fleeting dream and becomes a reality that shapes who you are and how you impact the world. One of the most dangerous myths about love is the belief that it's about losing yourself in another person, that real love means you can't live without them, that your identity dissolves into theirs. At first, that idea might sound romantic. People say, you complete me, or I can't live without you. It's poetic, but it's not the truth, because love built on dependency is not strength, it's fragility. Real love is not about needing someone to fill your emptiness. It's about choosing someone while standing whole yourself. Dependency often disguises itself as passion. In the beginning, it feels flattering when someone can't go a day without you, when they need your attention constantly, when they wrap their whole existence around you. But over time, dependency becomes a cage for both people. For the one dependent, life shrinks until it revolves around a single person, leaving no space for growth, individuality, or dreams. For the one depended upon, the weight becomes suffocating. What started as affection begins to feel like pressure. That's not love. That's fear of being alone dressed up as love. True love is not about shrinking your world, it's about expanding it. When two people truly love each other, they don't clip each other's wings, they help each other fly higher. They don't demand that the other person become their entire source of happiness. They support each other in creating lives filled with meaning and purpose. Love at its best is not dependency, it's empowerment. It says, I want to see you become everything you're capable of, and I'll stand beside you as you grow. This is why real love requires strength, not weakness. If you enter a relationship hoping someone will fix all your problems, you set both of you up for disappointment. No one can carry the entire weight of another's existence. But when two people come together, each with their own sense of identity and vision, love becomes a partnership of growth. It becomes a safe place where both can thrive, not a prison where both feel trapped. Think about a healthy tree. It doesn't lean on another tree for survival. Its roots dig deep, its branches stretch wide, and it grows strong on its own. Yet, when planted next to another tree, they can shield each other from the wind, their roots intertwining beneath the soil, giving each other stability. That's what love is meant to look like. Two people grounded in their own identity, growing side by side, supporting, not suffocating. This is why dependency confuses so many. It feels like closeness, but it isn't. Dependent says, I need you to survive. Love says, I choose you so we can grow. Dependency drains energy. Love multiplies it. Dependency is born out of insecurity. Love is born out of strength. When you depend on someone to make you whole, you are handing them the keys to your happiness, a weight no one can carry forever. But when you bring your wholeness into a relationship, what you share becomes abundant, stable, and enduring. This doesn't mean independence to the point of isolation. Love isn't about living separate lives under one roof. It's about interdependence, two lives that are strong individually but even stronger together. Interdependence says, I can stand on my own, but I choose to stand with you. I don't need you to survive, but I want you to thrive with me. That balance creates trust because neither person feels smothered or abandoned. And here's the key. Growth in love doesn't always come from the easy moments. Sometimes the people we love most challenge us the hardest. They hold up a mirror to our flaws. They push us to confront habits that are holding us back. They believe in us when we don't believe in ourselves. Love, when it's real, doesn't leave us where we are. It transforms us. It expands our vision of what's possible. That's why growth is inseparable from love, because to love someone is to desire their highest good, not just your comfort. But growth also means allowing space. Love that demands constant presence, constant reassurance, constant proof becomes heavy. Real love trusts. It allows room for individuality. It encourages the other person to pursue dreams, friendships, and passions, knowing that the bond is strong enough to withstand distance. Without that space, growth withers. With it, love becomes fertile ground for both people to evolve into better versions of themselves. We see this in the strongest relationships, not couples who spend every second together out of fear, but couples who support each other's independence, who celebrate each other's victories, who carry each other's burdens without erasing individuality. That's why you'll often hear people in lasting partnerships say, they make me better. Because that is the essence of growth in love, not dependency that drains, but connection that elevates. Dependency clings. Love empowers, dependency traps, love frees, dependency says, don't leave me. Love says, I'm with you, but I also want to see you soar. And here's the beauty. When love is growth, it never becomes stale. It evolves as you evolve. The bond deepens not because you're stuck together, but because you're both choosing again and again to move forward, not only as individuals, but as a team. That's why people in healthy love look back after years and say, we've come so far together, because the love that lasts isn't the one that froze you in time. It's the one that kept moving, kept stretching, So if you want to know whether what you're experiencing is love or dependency, ask yourself, does this relationship make me smaller or does it help me grow? If it limits you, if it feeds only on fear of being alone, it's not love. But if it challenges you, strengthens you, and makes you more of who you're meant to be, then it is the kind of love that builds a future worth living. Your love is not about losing yourself. It is about finding more of yourself while walking beside someone who is doing the same. That's what makes it real. That's what makes it powerful. And that's why the true meaning of love is not dependency. It is growth. And growth is what keeps it alive. And within that choice lies a surprising freedom. Because once you stop chasing endless options, you're finally free to build, free to grow roots, free to go deeper instead of wider, free to experience love not as a fleeting emotion, but as a lifelong adventure. Freedom isn't found in avoiding responsibility. It's found in embracing it with the right person. It's like learning an instrument. At first, commitment feels limiting. You can't play every instrument. You have to choose one. But once you commit, your freedom expands. You gain mastery, creativity, and the joy of expression that only comes with depth. Love works the same way. By committing to one path, you unlock a freedom you never knew was possible, the freedom of depth, of trust, of building something that lasts beyond the moment. This is why love that runs from commitment never lasts. It confuses novelty with meaning. It trades long-term peace for short-term thrills. And while the thrill fades, the emptiness grows. But love that embraces commitment becomes a foundation, a source of strength, a home. So if you fear that commitment will steal your freedom, think again. It is commitment that gives freedom its truest form. Freedom is not the absence of ties, it is the presence of trust. Freedom is not the ability to walk away at any moment, it is the security of knowing you don't want to. Freedom is not found in endless options. It's found in the depth of one choice, lived fully. And that is the final paradox of love. By narrowing your focus to one person, one path, one promise, your life actually expands. You gain a deeper sense of meaning, a steadier foundation for growth, and a freedom that no shallow option could ever offer. So the true meaning of love is not what you think. It's not about keeping your options open, chasing sparks, or avoiding commitment. It is about stepping fully into commitment and discovering that in giving yourself to one path, you gain the freedom to live, grow, and love with a depth that changes everything.